Hey everybody. So I've got a really interesting thing to show you tonight that it's really going to warp your reality a little bit, I think. And it's kind of interesting how I came upon it as well. As a lot of you know, that I've been researching the Orion Nebula. And what I've found is that when we look back in history and we look at a lot of the famous painters, we can go all the way back to ancient Egypt, we can go to Sumeria. We find that these master painters, for whatever reason, were showing us the Orion Nebula. This is the center of the trapezium in infrared, and you can clearly see, without me drawing anything, it's the almost identical to the Sumerian winged disk. So, in people's mind's eye, all over the place. And I'm going to go into the implications of all this in another video, because the implications of all this that I'm finding is actually just huge. But I wanted to show you what I found. I just happened to be researching the Egyptian afterlife because, as a lot of you know, Osiris, which is what the Egyptians believed was the place of, it was the god in the sky, which was Orion, but it's also the place of afterlife and rebirth. Okay, and a lot of people mistake this. They go, no, it's Orion the Hunter, but they don't realize that name was given to him like 1,000 or 2,000 years after the Egyptians had already given it the place of afterlife and rebirth. What we find is that clearly it is, because everybody seems to be tapping into this area subconsciously. What you're looking at right here, and what I've been doing lately to show people, is I take an original of whatever they painted, and then I take an original of the Orion Nebula. The trapezium area seems to be the area of focus that people are connecting to in their mind's eye mostly. And what I do is I find the overlay, and then I take the original and I put it on there 4 times, and then I take the Orion Nebula and I put it on top of it, and I change it by transparency little bit by little bit, until you get the original of the Orion Nebula, so your eyes can just kind of follow it through. What that allows us to be able to do is it allows us to be able to confirm highly detailed matches, because you can see that, for example, if we take a look at this one right here, we can see that although these images are morphing, that they're the same, and the reason that we can say that they're the same is because we're taking samples throughout the picture in various places. And because we can see that the lines are matching on all of these different things, then we know that they're drawing the same thing. Okay. Now this starts getting really crazy, because some of the things that are matching the Orion Nebula are not paintings. Let me show you what my newest find is. I decided to research the Egyptian afterlife because the afterlife and rebirth is actually the Orion Nebula. And that is where it's not just the Orion constellation, it specifically is the Orion Nebula. And if you even want to get more specific about the target area that they're focusing on in their mind's eye, or however you want to say that they're connecting, is the trapezium area, which turns out to be the thalamus in a larger collective consciousness. And I've gone over that in another video before. But I decided to research the Egyptian afterlife, and I wanted to find out what they knew about it. And so I get down to here on description of the ancient Egyptian afterlife. And it says, following the ordeal in the Hall of Truth, the deceased was welcomed by Osiris into the Egyptian afterlife. The pharaoh would join the realms of the gods, and all others would enter everlasting paradise. In this beautiful world, the life of the deceased was mirrored, but there were no problems, there was only happiness. The afterlife was seen as a perfect existence in an ideal version of Egypt. An ideal version of Egypt. Okay? There were fields, crops, and the celestial Nile. Now, a lot of people are familiar with some of the work of some of these other researchers, like Robert Vall, Wayne Herschel. However, I've discovered something that I believe really confirms the whole afterlife being in the Orion Nebula. It seems to be all over the place. The evidence is definitely there, and I've found something that is really just going to warp your reality. Now, key things to look at here. The afterlife was seen as a perfect existence in an ideal version of Egypt. So that means that Egypt and the celestial Nile was there. So the celestial Nile is not the Milky Way like they say it is. And I'm going to show you. Now, I presented this to you guys, I believe it was the day or before yesterday or something like that. Basically, what I showed you here was that this is how I find possible candidates that are matching. And what I do is I look for one of these two patterns, either a basic pattern, pattern A, which you can see right here, or I look for pattern B right here, which is the more detailed version of that. And you can see on here the original. If you just follow those lines, you can see how it matches up to B. Okay, and this is what I've found, and this happens to be the trapezium area. So when I see things that look like that usually follow the theme of the dove, or somebody ascending, or God in the clouds, or something like that, I usually know that means the Orion Nebula trapezium in Christian church art, and actually not just Christian stuff. Like I said, you can go back to Sumeria or ancient Egypt and so forth. Okay, so that's how I find my patterns. So after reading that about the ideal, perfect existence in an ideal version of Egypt, I just decided to pull up Google Earth real quick and take a look at what's over there. So here we are at the Great Pyramids, okay? Because I was really interested to see if there was anything on here that I could actually see that made any sense. And so I backed up a little bit, and voila, look at what I saw. Let me show you just to compare again against what I was showing you before. If you notice, take a look at this pattern right here, okay? And this is the trapezium area. And remember, they said that there was a celestial Nile there. Okay, now let's take a look. Okay. So, right off the bat, it has the lines that I was looking for. I was like, wow, this may be a candidate, but if it is, this is crazy, because we're talking about, this is a huge piece of land right here, right? And this is where it kind of gets into the whole holographic universe, mental universe, whatever you want to call it, because this ideal version of Egypt that they were talking about with the celestial Nile, well, see, this is the Nile, right? Nile's right here, which happens to be running from in here, but the deal is that they're actually talking about the trapezium. So let me just show you what I was able to come up with. Now this is going to blow you away, because and like I said, I took the original, found the Orion Nebula trapezium, and then I just changed the transparency over. Now look, okay, so on the general view up here, you could say, yeah, well, that's fine. But what I do is I draw your eyes to focus areas. What I want you to notice here is okay, so this little triangle right here that sticks out right here of the Orion Nebula, I've basically taken it and I put it right here, okay? Well, now follow your eyes with that triangle all the way through, and you'll notice that it's still right here as well. Let me show you another one that's really, really good. Do you see this little red spear-like thing that's coming out of here with a little arrow on the top? Okay, well now follow your eyes all the way through. You still see it here, right? And here it is right here as well. Just back off. Look at right here and just follow your eyes through. You can see that it's still there. Right there. These are all samples. So this means that if you were to try to run probability on this stuff, basically, the face on Mars where they try to talk about it being millions to one? We're talking trillions and trillions to one, because we're talking lines that match. Let me just show you something here. Look at this right here. This is the dip where it comes down like this. I want you to look at that compared to this over here. Just follow your eyes through all the way, and even look where the where this Nile area starts coming down in here, and you can see that it's still contained over here, as well as this right here. You find it still contained all the way over here, and you can still see the opening that it comes up into right here. There's some other areas you can take a look at right here. Let's see if I can find one of those for you real quick. That's a good one. Okay, so this right here, you see this curve inside the Orion Nebula? It's right here. This is the original. And it actually, there's a curve, you see right here, that goes from here all the way around down here like that. Okay. Well, if you follow your eyes through, the same curve exists all the way through. And you can see that these things slightly morph a little bit, right? But they're the same thing, because we're taking samples and we're putting them all over the place, and we can see that they're the same. And that's the reason why all these things match to such a high level. So what are the implications of this? Well, this is clearly showing us the holographic universe, because this isn't a painting. This is actually the way it looks. This is the way the landmass looks, and it is emulating the Orion Nebula trapezium. I'm going to go into the implications of what all this means later, but you got to remember that the Egyptians said this was their ideal version of an Egypt with a celestial Nile. Well, that means that they would be located in their pyramids right about here. And the reason that this works so much better than some of the other theories is because the match is so high. And also, we've already proven that this is the area of the afterlife. So the idea about the Milky Way being next to the three pyramids and stuff like that, that's very cool and everything, but it's nothing compared to an image that is almost an overlay match. And them referring to the celestial Nile, and then referring it to being an ideal image of Egypt. I mean, this fits all of the categories, and to a very high level degree. I'll be posting this picture on my Facebook, and I've got some thinking to do, and so do you guys, because this is definitely a warp of your reality a little bit to see something like this. This is a huge discovery. Please go and copy this and download it to your hard drive. And anyways, just want to show you guys this. It's very, very cool. Definitely a breakthrough. Talk to you soon.